Yeah, thank you all very much. Pleasure to be here. I'm the new PhD student from Oldenburg, and we're looking at the question about how to cochlear implant users remix instrumental classical music. I made a motivational slide how music is important for everyday day on a music workshop. That's kind of odd, but anyway, as you all know, we're listening to music like every day, 4.5 hours apparently to this one study. And if you can think about any event in your culture, normally there's like music going on the same festival. Then again, if you have an impairment, obviously music is not that well perceived for you. And if you have like really severe hearing losses, so cochlear implants may help to restore the hearing abilities, at least for speech and silence. If you look at the CI again, we saw this a few times, but to recap, you have a little device behind your head. There will be a microphone which captures the audio. It will process. There will be some noise reduction things going on in the speech processor, and then it will be sent over a coil into the head. And in your cochlea, there's actually an electrode array which will basically shoot current into your auditory nerve, and this will be perceived as a sound. But here we have now an issue that there are only so many electrodes fitting into the cochlea, and that's in the most extreme cases is like 22. So you can imagine, okay, I have 22 different sounds basically, which I can hear, and now I want to listen to music. That's kind of difficult. Also, the temporal resolution is not that well as a normal hearing person. However, we know that the speech is going really, really well, at least in silent environments for CI users, which is incredibly. And also they enjoy music, even though we have clear evidence that they cannot recognize melodies really well, and even though they cannot recognize the timbre of an instrument really well, but still they enjoy it. However, there's like a lot of headroom where the enjoyment can be really increased, hopefully. If we look now on the state of the art, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we are looking at how to change the music, not how to change the sound processing, because the sound processing is normally depending on the factory you use. And if we are able to just change the music piece, that might be easier for all of the cochlear implants to use. So if you look at the state of the art, we have like a huge literature for Western pop music, and we see like a finding in all of the studies that it's always good to increase the vocals. Yeah, that's really nice. So the instruments are a little bit softer, the vocals are a little bit louder. And for classic music, this hasn't been shown yet. The only thing which has been shown recently that there should be a bass and treble boost. However, what happens now if we look at classical music, which doesn't have any vocals, because most of the classical music doesn't have any vocals in them. And one could, for example, assume, okay, obviously the CI users want to hear different mix than the normal hearers, because obviously if you listen to a whole orchestra, there's a lot of information coming in. Maybe you want to reduce some of the information to keep your focus on the good part. And also what can be thought of that the vocals also have the main melody in them. So if you listen to instrumental music, it makes sense that the main melody will be increased instead of the vocals. And we looked at some other stuff like if there's a difference in remixing between different data sets, but that's not the topic of today's speech. For that, we first of all need data sets, and we need data sets which are where you can see if there's a melody or a bass and accompaniment and percussion, but also we need excerpts where we can actually access them without having like some software which separates it. It will be way better if we have like recordings of the instruments, which luckily the Aalto University did. The Hattingen did that, luckily. And we could take 9 excerpts out of 3 different songs, which were recorded in an anechoic chamber, and each instrument was recorded on its own. Really helpful. We could then assign each instrument to like the melody at this time it played the melody, at this time it played the percussion part. However, it's an orchestral piece, and that's a lot of instruments. And we thought maybe it's a bit too much for CI users, so we also want to look at like a more simpler data set. And here we took trios from the Classical Archives MIDI set and synthesized them and had trios. So we looked at pieces which have a clear melody, clear bass, clear accompaniment again with 3 instruments. However, we needed a percussion. So we looked at the piano element, and I mean, the hammer is a little bit percussive, obviously. And we added a percussive track, which is following this percussive element of the piano. Also, we did 2 different arrangements of these quartets. So we exchanged the instruments to look later on if there's an instrument-specific effect, or if it's more like the actual melody which is important, or just the instrument which is playing. So it's time to invite some subjects. We use this GUI called MT5, which is also used in Pond's paper. Yeah, we come to that later actually. The user can change something there, and that will directly be sent to this cochlear audio streamer, which has a direct coupling to speech processors. So we don't have any problems of noise in the room or something, or bad microphones, because it will be directly coupled. It is though done in like a reverberant low room, so there's like a lot of acoustic canceling happening there. And yeah, the subject can now play around in this GUI. And in this GUI, there are like 4 sliders. He does now, he's changing melody, accompaniment, percussive, and bass, but he doesn't know which slider switch, so he can only hear that basically. And the next nice thing about this GUI is if he changes the slider, the change will directly be on his ears, or in his ears actually. And this will be helpful. However, what does the slider change? And we thought about 3 different things. First of all, the obvious thing about the increase and decrease in amplitude. So he can make the melody louder. That's the effect we wanted to perceive. But then again, if we're already measuring that, why not also letting him the possibility to space out the voice? So he had the ability, if he panned it all to the left, it will be only on his left side. If he panned it all to the right, it will only be on the right side. And okay, we looked at amplitude and spatial, but we can also, if we have sliders, we can also look at spectral parts. So if we put it all in the middle, it will be an all-pass filter, nothing will change. But if he goes to the left side, it will be a low-pass filter, and more will be cut off. If you go to the right side, it will be a high-pass filter, and more will be cut off until there's only like the high frequencies remaining in the piece. And yeah, time to invite some subjects. And we found the 6 voluntary subjects with like being male and female out of nearly every age class, and was like a lot of different years experience with the CI, and different behavior in musical listening. We had some who like to listen to classical music, which was nice for the study. We have some who don't like to listen to classical music at all, and we had some who don't like to listen to music at all. All interesting. Now we get to the results, the remixing. We see on the bottom part, on the x-axis, we see the 4 different voices. And on the y-axis, we see the mean preference of one subject. So each of these elements, symbols, is one subject. The red diamond is the mean. And we see no preference for any voice. So I was dead sure that there would be a preference for melody, but I couldn't find any, at least in this data, which was really surprising for me. It's roughly at the zero area. We look now at the spatial, so how you want to pan it in your space, basically. We didn't find an effect. They all want to have it from the front, which kind of makes sense actually, because the CIs are not really used to have like spatial information. Even though we had the training implied, it's something they never thought about normally. And we look at the spectral, where we don't have any effect. So they want to have the music pieces as they are, which is nice, because that means they can perceive the information which is giving in the orchestral pieces, that it somehow plays together, and every bit is important. But not nice for me, because I really thought the melody would be more important than everything else. But I'm not yet able to give up. And I'm starting now to invite them again into my studio, into my lab, and with a different test. So, because maybe 4 sliders are a bit overwhelming for OCI, because they have to hear the difference, and there's a lot of going on, and they are really hearing impaired, so they cannot hear that really well. and I made some A/B testing. So the setup is basically the same. They have like two options, two sounds are played. They don't know what the sound is, but they can decide, I like the left one more, I like the right one more. They have as much time to listen at that how many tries as they want to. And now we're giving them basically three different versions of one song. For like an amplitude mixing, for example, we have the unprocessed version where everything is equally loud. We also have like the average remix the subject did earlier to check if they actually prefer that or the effect was actually non-significant. And we have our educated guess what we thought they would like or prefer more. And we let them pairwise compare everything. For example, the one subject who was already in my study now, he liked to have the melody 2 dB increased in the last time he was in my lab. I thought he would want to increase it to 6 dB, so I tried that on him. For the spatial bit, he left everything in the middle except for the bass. That should be a little bit to his right side. And I asked him prior which is his preferred side, and I put the melody all the way to his right side because it was his preferred side, and had the accompaniment a little bit to the a little bit more spread out, and then the next voice a little bit more spread out, and the percussion all to the left side. Idea behind this was that the more spatial information you get, the easier it is to separate the streams. And we were hoping this would help him to perceive at least the orchestral data way better, because now he can see, okay, that's the melody, that's the bass, and so on. And for the spectral, he liked to have an all-pass filter for the percussion, but a little bit of low-pass filters on the other one, other voices. And we thought it would be nice to basically cut the spectral domain in half and give him half of them for the low instruments, which would be bass and percussive, and the high space for the accompaniment, while the melody stays roughly the same. Yeah, that's an error actually. There should be a 100 or something here. I'm sorry about that. There's no high pass filter that much on the melody. And now we look at the results. Surprisingly, we don't see the effect I wanted to see again. At least in this one subject. It's only one subject, so I'm still help for the other 5. The unprocessed, he didn't have, for the amplitudes, he didn't have a preference for the unprocessed or for the subject or expert. He did, however, have he liked my expert educated guess remix better than his own version. For the spatial, he preferred the unprocessed version, so like the normal kind of spatial remix you have in a normal piece of the normal recordings. And in the spectral part, again, there was no significant preference for one of the 2 remixes against the unprocessed version. However, he liked his better than mine, which is good for him, but sad for me. Yeah, to conclude, we have this new data set constructed with this quartets with changing instruments, which should be in the future publicly available. So please contact us if you want to have that. For the remixing experiment, which was conducted with 6 subjects, we didn't find yet a significant difference in the remixing of these voices or musical elements. Yeah. Also, we didn't have this melody obsessiveness is too much, but the idea that the melody is more important than everything else, we couldn't find that in the cochlear implant users. And we saw in the special at least that they might like it more from the front if all music is coming from the front. And yeah, and the A/B testing is currently still being done, but so far it seems that the same results will come out, even though we checked it twice in a different experiment. And at last, I want to thank everybody involved, actually, the APG with Weldon Noguera, the voluntary subjects, DFG for giving me money to do that, and yeah, all my subjects who came and want to listen to music.